G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Aussie Starcraft, where we are bringing you games from the Acer Team Story Cup. Now, in the top left hand corner is the man who's able to take it to Tasia last game. Give it up for San. In the bottom right hand corner, playing for Team Liquid, it's going to be a LiquidSnute, so it is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss game here on King Sejong's station. And things are looking pretty exciting in this series between Team Liquid and YFWSan. Now, San was able to humble Liquid Tasia last game, but Snute is in fantastic form lately. For those of you not aware, Snute's always been an excellent ZvP player, but in the last couple of months he's really been lifting his game across the board. He's seen some excellent tournament results and just some very competitive play. So excited to see how he goes up against San. Now, King Sejong Station obviously is one of the newer maps this season. It features quite an interesting feature that we don't see in many other maps, and that is this natural expansion is a small ramp down into your natural and then an extremely large ramp to try and hold. And if that wasn't difficult enough, it's also got a set of destructible rocks here that can be either taken out by the attacker to open a second avenue, or can be taken out by the defender to take a third base out in this direction. So rather symmetrical map. You've got second and third bases that you can take in either direction, though we tend to see players take a third up here, and this doesn't tend to be taken as, well, occasionally taken as a fourth, but most often as a fifth base. And we've seen quite a lot of very lengthy games here on King Sejong Station. We've seen Stefano versus Petraeus was one game that it leaps to mind. It was a 2-hour plus swarm host battle of the fittest, and that was quite a lengthy game. Interested to hear your thoughts on that. We know that Blizzard taking a big look at swarm host, particularly in the Zerg vs Zerg matchup, and curious to see what they'd do with them. If we were to pose that question to you, the audience, let us know down in the comments down below. What do you think can be done to alter or change the swarm host to make them a more viable unit, and not just something that necessarily balloons out the length of the game? So I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Is a very difficult thing for Blizzard to try and tackle at the moment. They'd love to nerf the swarm host, but if they do that, makes it very difficult for the Zerg late game against Protoss and Terran, but particularly Protoss. Things like the Colossi just eat them up. And there's a lot of Protoss tier 3 units that the only answer seems to be the swarm host. But if you buff other elements of the Zerg and remove the swarm host, you end up in a very difficult situation. For example, if you buff Roach Hydra, which is already very strong early game, you'd make the game just as difficult for the other races. So a little bit tough for Blizzard, and really curious what you guys have to say. So if you got any thoughts on the swarm host discussion, throw it down below. Would love to hear what you have to say. Meanwhile, both these players going for a very quiet macro opening. Snute's going to be taking a little bit of a look. Saw that work heading back to the mineral line, so it looks like he will scout this very quick Stargate. Looks like San, who actually elected to throw down this Nexus first in a very aggressive opening, gives the Zerg player two choices. One, try and throw some speedlings at it to try and cancel it before it can see use, or to do what Snute's done, which is to throw down a very quick third base. So it's going to be a fairly substantial macro game, I would imagine, between both these players. San's Stargate continuing to build there, almost finished up. I imagine that that was indeed spotted by Snute. Actually, it appears he pulled back with that Overlord just before he would have spotted it. So that's quite crazy. I thought that Snute had actually seen the worker that constructed that start to head away. So I thought he was making a beeline for it. Have San here starting to secure his second base. We have an Oracle being chrono boosted out, so these Oracles could potentially do a lot of damage. There are quite a few Queens in play. We've actually already got, oh, actually that's the same Queen that's just doing work moving between these three bases, though we did have 3 more Queens on the way, so it's going to take us to at least 4 Queens. Not a lot else in the way of units, so Snute macro out very hard. If we check out the income tab, we can see it's almost dead even there at 38 harvesters each. But Snute very quickly going to get an advantage there as this third base starts to get underway. We've got a Queens here beginning to spread the creep. This Oracle's going to make its way in, but 2 Queens already in position to deal with that. We'll have a Spore Crawler be thrown down in the main base. It's going to make things just a little bit easier for Snute to try and handle these Oracles. Oracle's going to come back in for another run. Going to manage to clean up 1 drone, 2 drones, 3 drones, and make its way out. So a little bit of damage there, not too shabby at all. Second Oracle going to be swinging in now to join in. Actually have a few Zerglings moving for a counter attack. Third base for San actually being thrown down quite quickly. I'd love to get that secured. Actually have managing to snipe the Creep Tumor. It's a nice little pickup there for San. Creep Tumor getting reburied by the Queen. And just a nice consistent moves from Snute here to try and keep his macro chugging along at pace. We have Lair coming up now, as well as a lot of gas, guys, has been taken. We have 6 gas already being taken, and Lair just about to finish up. So if I had to guess, I would say that we'll either see a Roach Hydra push or we'll see Swarm Hosts, and just how late this Roach Warren is makes me think that Swarm Hosts may well be the choice for our player Snute. Over on the Protoss side of things, we're seeing San secured his second base quite snugly. +1 weapons is on the way. A lot of sentries here to defend this third base. That's going to be more than enough, along with this photon cannon, to keep any number of Zerglings at bay. In fact, the infestation pit is on the way. Roach Warren almost finished up, so I think we will be seeing some roaches and some swarm hosts. A few gateways going to seal that cannon off nicely and make this third base very secure. Overlord going to be taking another scouting probe through the main base. There's not a lot for it to actually see. You can see the upgrades coming along as well as blink, and can see that the Stargate's not actually doing anything at present. So no big surprises for Snute to scout. The Overlord will pay with its life here as this particularly diligent Stalker here going to force that Overlord out and pick it off. We have the weapons upgrade being Chrono Boost out now. Potential for other upgrades now that Twilight Council is in play. And we do have the Swarm Host. Enduring Locust is on its way, and we do have the first couple of Swarm Hosts making their way onto the field. So I think there's a little bit of a difficult position for San now. Swarm Host going to put a lot of pressure on him. There is actually no Colossi on the field, no High Templar on the field. Makes Swarm Host very difficult to deal with. Lots of sentries and lots of Stalkers, potential for a lot more Stalkers even. But these Swarm Hosts will continue to trade very effectively against those. So curious to see how Snute handles this. Is to continue to build a lot of Queens. If we check out the units, there's actually 6 Queens on the field, which is a substantial amount. It's going to help him deal with things like those Oracles. And it looks like San may actually try to knock down the back door. He wants to catch these Swarm Hosts out of position. The Roaches down here at the third base. The Oracle's continuing to prod back and forward. Queen's going to try and clean those out. But this back door is going to get beat down very quickly. Plenty of sentries here for energy. Potential for them to get a great angle, but it looks like Snute will spot it in time and get his units in place to defend. Swarm Host going to be burrowed, and they'll be spawning Locusts right in time. So this Protoss army not going to be able to do anything. Maybe forced to throw down a few force fields. What San would have loved to do is get up before those Swarm Hosts were in place, drop a few force fields here between the ramp and the hatchery, and some more on the other side. It would have allowed him to snipe that hatch well and truly, and not allowed any Zerg units to actually get through. Force fields are very powerful against Zerg, particularly before they've got Ultralisk and they have no means to actually snipe those off. So, or well, stomp them down, I guess is probably the correct term. East Queen's just continuing to spread creep in, despite the best efforts of San's Oracles here, though we do have the Stalkers actually going to swing by, and they may well pick off this Queen here. No, going to blink away and pick off all 3 of these Queens. So nice pick up for San here, using the mobility of his army. Swarm Host going to be moving, a few burrowing, unburrowing, and going to clean up all the creep tumors. So nice moves there from San, utilising the mobility of his army to do exactly what he needs to do. He needs to keep this creep right back, as these Swarm Hosts can do so much damage here. San needs to put on all the pressure he can. We can see that Snute's just very comfortable macroing back on these 3 bases. Going to throw down his 4th now, and be very easy to defend these positions with some static defense and some swarm hosts. Going to be able to keep that base very safe. Counterattack from these roaches here, going to force San to warp in a few more units. 2 photon cannons to try and do the best they can. A few zealots being warped in, but there's quite a few roaches. And mass recall on that main arm is going to allow him to clean us up very quickly. Stalker's going to blink forward on top of these roaches, and they will all go down and get cleaned up very nicely. If we look at the units lost tab, a little bit more for our Zerg player than for San, but relatively speaking, both players in a fairly comfortable position. The thing that I'm not comfortable with is San's lack of answer to the swarm host. He's got 2 robo facilities, so I imagine we will see the support bay, the robotics bay already in place, so potential for Colossus. Just not seeing them very yet. It seems San would love to try and deal with these swarm hosts with his more mobile blink armor. You have a few zealots being warped in by his pylon here up on the high ground, so nice choice from San there to try and get a little bit of damage done. These stalkers continuing to blink back and forward against the main body of swarm hosts. However, they are just getting free damage. As we can see, the units lost tab has evened itself up quite quickly. Protoss ground weapons level 3 come out, which is well and truly above Snute's upgrade. Snute's 1-1 almost finished up now, though we do have Vipers on the field, so potential for either Blinding Cloud on the Stalkers. Nice time warp there is going to slow those Locusts down and allow Sun to clean up the creep once again, though. The Queens continuing to be produced. We have another 3 Queens on the field, so if we check out the units tab, we can see that there's 9 Queens already in play to back up the 33 swarm hosts that are in play. So buckle up, ladies and gents. I think this game is going to continue to lengthen out here. We have Colossi being dropped. Snute actually going to invest a lot of static defense. I like the choice from Snute. A lot of players a little bit reticent to do that, but the static defense just gives you so much more mileage out of these swarm hosts. These zealots unfortunately not going to get anything done with the swarm hosts in position to defend. San continuing to try and be as aggressive as he can, revealing these creep tumors, cleaning them up with the blink stalkers. Going to limit the effectiveness of this swarm host, which is what he needs to do. Those swarm hosts going to continue to get a lot of free kills. We can see the units lost tab continuing to move further and further in favour of our Zerg player. 2-2 on the way now, +3 weapons is halfway done for our Protoss player. Thermal Lens coming up now, and Colossus being chrono boosted out 2 at a time. I like this choice from San. The blink stalkers, great for the mobility early on, but there's really only so much damage they can do. We see Spire, actually double Spire, coming down from Snute now, as he knows he will need those corruptors. The Colossi, quite good. Obviously, Colossi very useful against swarm hosts. Things like corruptors can counter them. We have the Vipers in play as well. So lots of choices here for Snute as he continues to utilize his extensive bank to fat out his tech tree, get all the upgrades that he needs. 2-2 on the way, +3 for the Protoss player. The ground armor still completely untouched, though in all fairness, the attack upgrade is the more important upgrade against Zerg. This one hero stalker here continuing to try and do a bit of damage, though an Overlord's going to be pooping some creep and going to allow Snute to throw down a heck of a lot of static defense. His poor Warp Prism going to be forced out quite quickly here, as the Queens throw down a lot of creep. So Snute just closing every potential avenue. The Queens just keeping this creep spread. There's a ridiculous amount of Queens on the field. We have 11 Queens, 28 swarm hosts still in play. We have the adrenal glands upgrade for those Zerglings coming, so it's going to dramatically increase their effectiveness. And both our players just continuing to fat out their trees as fully and effectively as possible. We even have some air upgrades coming up for San. So San obviously contemplating another potential fight. We actually have 5 Stargates coming out for San, so that's just a little bit crazy. We haven't seen that sort of Stargate commitment in a long time. San taking his 4th and 5th base, so his aggression has managed to keep these swarm hosts largely at bay. It certainly needs to buy a little bit more time. Doesn't want to see that creep spread up to his new 5th base. A few Vipers here could potentially go down. There's a lot of Stalkers in play. Going to pull that Oracle in, and the Queens will clean it up very quickly. They've got to be careful. These Stalkers will kill Queens and Vipers all day long. So San doing his very best here. Almost able. Would love to try and catch those Vipers, but these Swarm hosts is going to prove way too dangerous. Can they pull in? Poor Stalker does get pulled in and annihilated before it actually even lands in its new location. We have 2 Warp Prisms going for a little bit of a harass down this bottom side of the map, and there are a few Swarm hosts in play to deal with it, but how much damage will it get done? I think Snute will spot it quite quickly. His creep tomb is giving him excellent line of sight, and there's a lot of spore crawlers in place. Unfortunately, we have these, they're going to fire and get caught by the Queen, taking massive damage from those spore crawlers. They're managing to take out one of the Queen. Would love to see them warp in a few more units, but unfortunately it seems that San's a little bit too preoccupied with his stalkers in the middle of the map, and these Warp Prism's going to get pinned down here if he's not too careful. Queen's coming in here, a few Vipers as well. We can see their shadows as they make their way into the field. Going to pull in that second Warp Prism. Will get cleaned up. So it looks like we will need to see a different solution. That solution may come in the form of this Mothership core, which is morphing into the fully blown Mothership. So we see San actually seems to be investing quite heavily in the air. We've seen 5 Stargates. In fact, the Tempest now on the way, so 4 Tempests at a time. That's pretty substantial. Something we've not often seen. Even shields upgrade being researched now. No armor, interestingly enough. Shields being used before armor, and I like the choice, particularly on Tempest. When you've got Tempest and Colossi, things that are very shield heavy units, it makes for a great choice. We have High Templar as well to potentially storm the Locust. San going to gradually want to trade away these stalkers, not too recklessly, but he will want to get rid of those in due course. Free up a bit more supply for these high level units that he's continuing to produce. We have plenty of Colossi in play. We have more Warp Prisms perpetually being built by San here. A few Tempests now making their way out. I imagine we will see quite a few more. 3-3 being finished up for the ground here, and 2-2 coming up for air upgrades for Snute as he continues to bank a substantial amount of minerals. 7,000 minerals, 2,500 gas, nothing to be sneezed at. Still trying to get this 5th base established here, but San repeatedly able to deny this with his stalkers. Going to take his own 5th base and continuing to mine here. There's one thing that can be said for San. He is losing units to these free locusts, but he's managing to keep Snute completely bottled up on his side of the map. Swarm host continuing to do a little bit of damage, but Snute just persistently pushing back the creep, sniping the bases, just getting real mileage out of every one of his units, continuing to produce things like photon cannons and static defense, mining off a phenomenal amount of bases here. You don't often see a Protoss that's simultaneously mining off 5 bases, but we are seeing that out of San. He's almost mined out his gas in his main base. There's a lot of Zealots being warped in to continue to try and harass. Unfortunately, Swarm hosts still are going to be in position, so these Zealots are going to continue to get cleaned up very quickly. Units lost tab continuing to favour Snute in a big way, throwing out a lot of spine crawls here. We have 6 more spine crawls coming down. We actually have a Stalker managing to get abducted right in the middle of the spine crawl. So poor guy can't actually escape. Would love to blink out, but it looks like San is a little bit preoccupied. Oh, actually does manage to blink out there, so gonna save himself. Almost got stuck in the midst of those. Would have been a little bit unpleasant for that Stalker when those spine crawlers finished up. Good thing blink was already finished. Going to continue to harass, but we see the Stalker net count continuing to drop. We see Protoss Air level 2 coming up now, and Tempest just being produced 4 at a time. So we're up to 6 Tempests, another 4 on the way. 2 of those finishing now, 8 Tempests. So we have both our players almost maxed out. Fair bank in play for Snute, but San's starting to creep up there himself with 800 minerals, 1500 gas. Continuing to use these Zealot warp-ins to try and do any damage possible, but unfortunately, the sheer quantity of static defense is making life just a little bit difficult for San to really get the harassment done that he'd like to do. If we check out the units tab, we see it's 25 Swarm hosts, 9 Corruptors and a few Vipers, along with a fairly sizable Queen count. Compared to this rather heavy air armada that's forming, we have 10 Tempests already, another 3 potentially coming up now. And normally to deal with the Tempest, you'd really like some Hydralisk, something with high DPS and quite quick fire time. The Corruptor's great at killing Colossi, not so great at killing Tempest. You can yoink them over with the Vipers. does require a fair amount of precision, as the Tempest will just blast apart the Vipers if you're not careful. These Stalkers just continuing to make themselves a nuisance. They're going to force the cancel on this base yet again, managing to... Oh, no, don't get the drone. It does look like Sam will lose his... Oh, no. Looks like I spoke just a little bit too soon. 3 of those Stalkers will continue to stay alive and be a nuisance. We take out the kill count, we actually see a combined 15 kills on 3 Stalkers. Not often that you see Stalkers do that much work. Warp Prisms continuing to try and harass down this side. Looks like the static defense has actually been moved, so potential for these Warp Prisms to actually do some work here at this base. There is still a few swarm hosts here in play. It looks like the Colossi are going to move down here. Storms right on top of the Locust is a substantial threat to this base. Snoot units dying very quickly as the Colossus do massive damage. We have a Warp Prism trying to warp in units here, but the Corrupt is going to destroy that Warp Prism. Second Warp Prism managing to escape detection here, and that's going to be very important as these Corruptors move out to try and help deal with San's Tempest host. There's 13 or 12 Tempests here and plenty of Colossi still in place. 13 Tempest, 4 Colossi. It's going to be extremely difficult for Snoot to try and clean this up. The Corruptors managed to miss that Warp Prism. They managed to snipe the +3 weapons upgrade, so poor news for Snoot. They're losing that upgrade just in the nick of time. It was actually very close to finishing up, but those Zealots managed to polish it off. We have San continuing to make an utter nuisance of himself. Snoot has plenty of minerals and gas in the bank to try and deal with this, but going to have to come up with a solution very quickly, as these Tempests are going to start to sway things back in his favour. We see the units lost tab is gradually tipping back in San's favour. He's working down. We have a lot of Corruptors here. I think they're going to pull in that Mothership core and just destroy it. 2 Colossus do go down that quickly. Mothership does go down as well. Storm's going to do a lot of damage to the Corruptors. Tempest as well, just going to wreck base here as they just destroy Overseers and Corruptors alike. These Storms from the High Templar are very important, managing to keep those Corruptors at bay. A few Archons here going to be needed to clean up these few Locusts that are coming back and forth. Though Snoot still has a stack of Corruptors, another 13 on the way. +3 Carapace is almost finished. These Archons managing to get on top of the Corruptors. Storms on top of these Swarm hosts going to do a lot of damage to those as well. And these Archons just doing so much work. 7 kills, 4 kills. So the Corruptors just going down in droves. Tempest firing volley after volley. Unfortunately, their rate of fire is exceptionally slow. More Archons do more. And it looks like Sam will just get the edge in this fight as he continues to battle his way through Snoot's almost endless supply of Swarm host, Locusts, and static defense. San here is going to snipe this hatchery and actually going to get this Spire as well. It looks like Snoot had built that to try and get the +3 weapons upgrade. It's instead going to restart in his main base. And Snoot's going to try and build a few more Swarm hosts to try and halt this relentless aggression. Going to need a few Locusts. Archons clean those up quite quickly. Colossi doing a bit of damage, but there's so many Corruptors. There's 2 pages of Corruptors as we see them just barrel straight on top. Unfortunately, the Archons try and do as much splash damage as they can, but there's just so many Corruptors here. All of these units getting corrupted, and the Corruptors just going to blast through. Archons going to clean up a lot of them. Unfortunately, the Archons and Colossi are still going to work on the Locusts and the Swarm host, though dying very quickly there. And we see the game reset to 140 supply each as San's last surviving Archon beats a bit of a hasty retreat. Plenty of Stalkers being warped in to try and make some waves happen down on the bottom side of the map. Stalker's going to be able to use some fancy blink micro to try and trade and clean up these couple of Spine Claws. Queen here unfortunately picking the wrong time to try and go to work. We have some long distance mining going on from Snoot here. He's almost completely exhausted his bank. We had almost an incredible 10,000 minerals banked up for Snoot. Looks like he has completely exhausted that in order to stay in this game. San gradually wearing away, picking it away bit by bit, showing us that it can be done. Swarm hosts are pretty strong, but with nice control you can work your way through it. It's been just an absolute grind for him as we come up to the 30-minute mark. San just relentless here, continuing to harass on both sides, rebuilding that mothership, an important tool in his arsenal. It did go down at massive sacrifice of corruptors, but a second mothership will give him substantial advantage. I realize just how many times I've used the word substantial in this cast. I apologize, guys, but there's an epic game as these two just go at it toe to toe, tooth and nail, trying to get any advantage they can here in this game. The Archons, unfortunately, fighting the Locusts, something you've got to avoid. Don't want these expensive units going down to those free Locusts. We have this base being re-established by Snute in the middle of the map, even trying to take back this fifth base. I guess there is enough minerals here to justify the investment, but a few Zealots here actually going to cancel it. Corruptors, good unit, but can't shoot down, so Zealot's actually going to force the cancel even though it was almost completed. Archons and Stalkers going to be providing a lot of incentive for the Zerg player to evacuate the area. Corruptors unfortunately not going to be able to do anything to these Archons down, and actually going to lose a lot of them needlessly as these Archons and Stalkers go to town. This natural expansion all mined out is going to get picked off very quickly by this Protoss army. Would love to see a few High Templar added back into the mix. We have a massive group of Zealots just barreling up into the main base. The +3 weapons almost completed again, but will it get sniped for the second time? I think it will in fact go down. The Zealots just going to town on the Spire. The Spire does go down. There's a horrible news for Snooze, actually losing his infestation pit as well. The main army is being forced back. The Zealot's going to snipe a lot of the crucial tech structures here. Unfortunately for San, I think the remainder of these Zealots will die to the Locusts, but managing to snipe some vital structures. No more Swarm Hosts, no more Corruptors for the time being. Actually unable to remake that Spire. Things looking particularly dire for Snute here as Zealots come back into this fifth base. It's finally mining, but unfortunately for Snute, these Zealots of San are relentless in their aggression. Every time he moves his Swarm Hosts away, San managing to make something happen with these well, near endless supply of Zealots. It's 33,000 to 37,000 resources lost. We've seen it swing well into and then out of Snoot's favour as San's continue to be very cost effective. Oh, a bad rally point for these Swarm Hosts, actually going to send them right into the midst of the Protoss army. They will get picked off. That is unfortunate. Often does happen if you're not careful. When you shift to your Swarm Hosts and they don't manage to burrow in time, they will get forced up into the combat. You've got to be very careful with your Swarm Host control groups. And looks like that one will cost Snute 4 Swarm Hosts that he probably can't afford to lose, as we see him at a bit of a supply deficit at the moment. Oh, 5 more Swarm Hosts wandering into the fray. It's exactly what Snute really wouldn't like to see happen. The mothership will go down. 1 shot, 2 shot, a 3rd shot. We'll just see it fall. These Colossi really do need to go down. If the Colossus are dead, then it does give the Swarm Host an even chance against the remainder of the ground unit, and it looks like San will in fact lose most of his units here. There's still 2 Tempest and 2 Vikings, 2 Colossus even, and Warp Prism here actually going to be warping some more units here on the front line. These Archons really need to kill these Corruptors. If they kill the Corruptors, then the Colossi will be safe, and in fact the 2 Colossus do manage to survive. More Archons being warped in by San. He continues to warp in High Templar here at the front. I think this might be it for Snute. Unfortunately, he fought a good fight, but I think San's got him on the ropes now. San may take his second at Team Liquid scalp in this tournament, having taken Tasia's last round. Looks like Snute will tap out, and YFWSan going to take a second game. So this is big news for the Flash Wolves, as Team Liquid's been doing phenomenally in this tournament. I think they're 6-0 thus far, or 5-0, or something phenomenal like that. Looks like the Flash Wolves are here to put on a show, and a show indeed it was. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a pretty epic game, 35 minutes, a lot of back and forth, and even for Swarm Host games, I know they can get a little bit dull and boring and bogged down, but that was just incredibly back and forward as San just repeatedly tried to outmaneuver Snute and eventually managed to break him down. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed casting it. Got plenty more games coming up after this, so I would love to see you on the channel. If this is your first time, by all means please subscribe. I'd love to see you here in the future. This is Aussie StarCraft bringing you the Acer Team Story Cup. I got plenty more coming up after the break. Thanks guys.